Welcome to Real Perspectives. I'm your host, Latanya Moore, and my co-host, Mario, and we are Mario C. Brown. And I are really excited to be right back here with you guys on this wonderful Tuesday evening. Guys, we are so excited about today's show because we've asked so many times, what are the things that you guys need from us here on Real Perspectives? And one of the things that we were asked consistently, especially since we've started our relationship reality, I guess you could say, family of shows, because we've dealt with a lot of issues. One of the biggest things that we consistently have seen is people are asking, how do I get out of the friend zone? And so before we really just jump into it, I wanted to announce today's show, but before we really just jump into it, we want to ask everybody to share this video, share it with your tribe, invite friends to watch, because I know we've probably had about 40 or 50 people ask us to talk about something that is going to take us or let us talk about getting from the friend zone to the end zone, right? Because who wants to be in the friend zone during the holidays, right, Mario?
Yeah, people are not really trying to be in that friend zone. They want to cuddle up and be bayed up a little bit, and they want to take somebody around the family. And because, we talked about the other show where when you go home for the holidays, everybody's trying to figure out, like, when you going to get married, you ain't got nobody. What's wrong with you? So people want to kind of take somebody home and kind of cuddle. It's cold, and everybody's trying to, get beat.
They're trying to keep warm, boy. They're trying to keep warm. It's cold.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, but even broader than that, guys, something that Mario and I have noticed is that it really, in business, we always talk about getting out of the corporate rat race, right? Those of us that are entrepreneurs, that's been one of the big things. Man, I was tired of the corporate rat race. Well, we were able to determine that a lot of the people that contact us about our relationship reality topics really are in this dating rat race. So this is one of our topics under the dating rat race, is really about that whole friend zone area, right? One thing that people want to do, everybody says, oh, you should date and marry your friend. Well, most of the time that don't happen. You end up with an enemy. So what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about how to go from hey to bay, right, Mario?
From hey to bay, absolutely. That's
from hey to bay. We on this whole rhyme thing, y'all. So y'all just got to get it. Y'all just got to bear with us. But all jokes aside, now Mario, I know that with your spiritual counseling and in your life coaching business, y'all, he don't like to say nothing about it, so I'm gonna tell y'all, MarioCBrown.org. But anyway, tell us a little bit, Mario, what are some of the things that you see in this whole area of like going from hey to bay, or issues, honestly, that keep people in this relationship rat race?
Well, I think the first thing that I notice is that everybody has an issue concerning baggage. Everybody has baggage, but I find that the problem is when I coach people, or if I'm speaking to them about relationships, is that everybody's trying to get rid of the baggage. And may I say to you tonight, nobody ever gets rid of all of the baggage. That is literally impossible. You're going to have baggage. Why? Because everybody has a history. And I think that some erroneous information goes out a lot of times about, they got baggage. I don't want any baggage. You're going to always have baggage. It's like you're going to have trash in your house. You're going to always have baggage. So it's not about getting rid of all the baggage. It's about managing the baggage. Some of it, sure, you get rid of, but some of the stuff is just innate. It's just in us. Our experiences have been very real. So if you've been rejected, if you've been hurt, if you've been cheated on, those are very real experiences. And so you can't just get rid of that experience and erase it from your mind. You may have trust issues that are not necessarily causing you to be neurotic, but you do have trust issues. So I don't think the thing that you want to do is to just sit alone until you get rid of all of your baggage, because that's not going to happen. And very rarely are you going to meet anybody else who does not have some baggage. So I know when we get in the church.
Now, wait. Hold on.
Okay.
Because you done said some things.
Okay.
You said that we are not going to meet people that don't have baggage. And And I want to have you really elaborate on that, because I think that, I know, at least I'll just speak for me. I ain't gonna speak for all women, but that's one of the things that you always hear, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you know, if he got baggage, you know, girl, you need to just keep it moving, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we ain't talking about like serious issues or anything like that. You know, we've all gone there, but just talk a little bit about how does baggage look, so that people understand what you're talking about when you say people have baggage. What are some specifics, just a few, that you see are some major issues in relationships?
The most critical one is rejection. There are people who suffer greatly from rejection. And one of the things in my life coaching services that I talk about often is I can detect when a person has been rejected from the womb. That's a very, very deep issue. This is where a mom is pregnant and she doesn't want to be. It wasn't planned. So she begins to go through this emotional stuff about, I don't want no baby, but I don't want to have an abortion. I didn't want to have one. I don't want to have it with him. Or I want a girl and it's a boy. All of that starts happening in that cycle. And so people grow up with it. We have the light skin, dark skin thing that begins to happen. We have the family differences about the better part of the family. So it's a whole lot of rejection issues there. One of the things that I talk about often, LaTanya, is we're actually reenacting in much of our adult life things that happened to us at the playground. We were rejected at the playground. That's where you get chosen based upon your athleticism. Little girls are chosen whether they're light skin or dark skin, if they have long hair or they're bald headed. There are various ways you get rejected in the school system. If you're smart, you run with the smart kids. You're nerdy, you go with the nerds. So I find a lot of adults are wrestling with rejection. And from rejection, every other thing starts happening. Suspicion, self-sabotage, all of it starts from there. But the root of it is rejection. That whole spirit of fear comes from fearing I'm going to be rejected. So even if somebody's telling you, hey, listen, I love you, I'm really into you, but because you've experienced rejection, even sometimes from the womb, it's never enough. And so the person becomes extremely burdened because now they're always trying to reassure you, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I got you. But it's never enough. And they don't mean to be that way. That's the thing about it. I honestly have watched them really suffer and say, I don't want to be like this. And I believe them. They don't want to sabotage the relationship. But the reality is, I'm afraid. I have been mishandled and I'm afraid. I hear you, but I'm afraid.
You're saying something there, because I think also what happens is, and this probably goes into some other areas that I know eventually we're going to get to, but it's also their story, right? If you think about it, a lot of us have been in situations where the people say that they love you, and then they do these things that are counter to what makes you feel good, what makes you feel valued, right?
Right.
So oftentimes we run into that situation where now we're in a relationship, right? This person is saying the same thing. They're making us feel good. They're making us feel, safe, for lack of a better word. And then something happens,
right,
that is very similar to maybe a previous relationship, maybe a family situation. Angela Moore mentioned the favorite child, right? Absolutely. Like you were saying, kind of like being overlooked, someone being chosen over you. All of these things I think are really key. And that's why I really wanted you to talk about when you in your practice see baggage, because I think it's one of those words now people just say baggage, but they don't really talk about
absolutely
what that really is. So go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I was going to say, you asked me and I didn't get to it, but I want to. You said, what does it look like? That depends on who you are.
Okay.
That depends on who you are, because we've learned to manage the baggage to some degree. We can disguise it. It looks like maybe you're just a tough exterior person. You got this tough exterior, but in reality, it is something that has happened to you that's made you that way. And because the person that you're trying to connect with has never encountered that, it could be interpreted as baggage. And so sometimes people feel judged. This is where we get into this whole thing. I feel like you're judging me. It is because if I meet you and I've never seen that behavior, I'm going to say you got baggage. You do have it. That is absolutely the truth. It's just that you have to be careful when you say, well, you have baggage, because what will really end up happening is you'll find out we have the same baggage. You handle yours differently. Here we go. Some people use Glad trash bags. Some use another brand, off brand. It's still a trash bag. Okay. Some have drawstrings on them. Some have flaps. So we become very versatile in how we handle it. One of the things that we can hide behind are labels. And I think that people hide behind the label, they have baggage. Or you can incorrectly assign baggage to a very natural behavior. It's a natural fear. It's a natural apprehension. And so because you don't know how to handle it, you say you got baggage. Well, what is really happening is their baggage is conflicting with yours because everybody has it. And so it just depends on who the person is and how over the years they've learned to articulate what the baggage really is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's some really great comments. First of all, guys, welcome for those of you that are just now joining us. We want to say hey to everybody. Thank you guys so much. Shanette Bone says something very interesting. She says once that safety net is broken, it is hard to get it back. And I want to speak to that because one of the things that I think is important is that sometimes you in a relationship with somebody, you don't know what that button is, right? You don't know what that thing is until something happens. And I think it's like Shanette was saying, sometimes depending on what it is very, very, very difficult to get to that place where you can pull it back. What are some suggestions that you would make, to people that find themselves in that situation?
Well, I think that one has to acknowledge, first of all, that it's there and not crucify themselves for having it. Because what I try to tell people in my sessions is we're not going to minimize your experience. We're not trying to minimize what you experience. We're not trying to devalue it under any circumstances because it happened. It was real. But now we've got to figure out how much energy do we continue to pour into it and keep giving it life. We've got to figure out how to tame it without making you feel as though we're saying you have no right to feel that way. You see what happened. The scars are real. And sometimes I think when I see a person who's dealing with that, what I say to them, first of all, is stay out of all relationships right now. It's not the time to go into one. Don't even look for one yet. It's time for you to get in touch with you and figure out how I can get through this. Because believe me, Tanya, what happens is those people are also very bad to themselves. They not only hurt other people, but they really hurt themselves. So what I always encourage them to do is take some downtime. And then you need a counselor. You need to speak to somebody. That's why I started this business, because I'm very passionate about people recognizing that you don't have to minimize, because sometimes you listen to certain things or read certain books and they make you feel like, oh, I'm wrong for feeling this way, or you got to get rid of
condemnation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you wrong. You shouldn't do this. And if you combine that with church, then you go into hell for feeling this way. And I tell people, I told someone just today, I need you to feel that. I need you to own that feeling.
You got to honor it. You have to honor your feelings in a moment. Shanette also said something else. Shanette Bone said, we all have baggage. Essentially, she says we all have baggage, but we have to find someone that's worth it to help us unpack it. Now, I want you to I want you to address the whole unpacking of the baggage. I think we kind of started down that road, but she just kind of put that right in perspective for us. Talk about that.
Well, one of the things that I strongly suggest is that the person that you find to help you unpack that must be qualified. Now, what do I mean by that? It's hard to be romantically involved with someone and have them to unpackage your stuff. It gets too convoluted. It's someone from the outside. That's why you really have to pack prior to getting into relationships, because they're trying to love you and they really don't understand you. And then you're telling them, well, you got to be patient with me. And I understand the love thing, love is patient, so on and so forth. I get all of that. But in order to unpackage that thing, it really needs to be done in a pre-environment, if I can use that term. Do it prior to, so that you can sort through it without feeling judged, without being embarrassed. That's why we have services like Life Matters, life coaching services, to be able to talk to someone who isn't related to you, who doesn't know your family history necessarily, but someone that can say to you, let's talk about that. Well, what does that mean? And give you the opportunity to totally unpack that stuff. Now, I will also say this, Tanya, sometimes you need to keep some of it, because some of it keeps you from getting hurt again. It's not baggage necessarily as much as it is your discernment of what is happening in relationships. So I think that it's very important that if you're going to unpackage that baggage and you're going to sort through it, that the person that you're with and you're trying to be in a relationship with is not necessarily qualified to help you with that. And it doesn't make them a bad person. They're not a bad person. They just don't have what it takes to deal with that and still be in a relationship with you. That's what I think.
Angelo Moore says, once you're in a relationship, how long do you wait for the baggage to be unloaded? Now, hey, let's get it. Let's get it. I told you it's going to get real about 15 minutes in.
I would say when you discern, when you sense that you're losing yourself, vacate. When you are starting to behave outside of your character, when you are doing stuff that's really out of character, you're beginning to become depressed. Your nerves are getting bad. You begin to make poor decisions. They're taking away from the joy and fulfillment that you had prior to being with them. It's time to go. You don't stay there long enough for you to get damaged. Now we got two problems. You know, sometimes you have to just tell people, we met at the wrong time. We met at the wrong time. Because you got to get that dealt with, because I can't let you damage me, because then we're going to be two blind people and we're going to lead each other in a ditch. Somebody's got to be strong. The strong has the bad infirmity of the weak, sure, but not to the point that I leave so scarred that now I need medication and I got to go see a therapist because I'm trying to love on you to unpackage that. Every person has to have their own responsibility in making sure that they sort through those things, because some people literally, you don't have the capacity to really even hear your story. You know why? Because they have their own. They really have their own. So it's not that they don't love you. And see, some people think this, well, if you love me, you'll be there and help me bear this. Well, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, and that's a lie. Like, don't be telling nobody that. Like, just go and tell them, Mario. Just go on straight to it. This real perspectives.
Yeah, don't.
Right? Because here's the thing: you can't put that responsibility on somebody else. Right? Like you can't tell a person, this is my problem and it's your responsibility to help me with it. Right. You know, I think that when you enter into a relationship, you are to a certain degree accepting what you got. Like there's something in the legal community that it says you find your victim as you see it, right? And what that means is you may not have anticipated something, or you may say, well, I would have made a different decision had I known. But guess what? You made the decision. So however you found that victim is the way that you get them. Now you deal with the aftermath. Mm-hmm. And that's a similar situation now, right? Because what you're saying is I'm entering into this relationship because see, I wasn't concerned. I wasn't concerned with the baggage when I saw what I like, right? I wasn't concerned with the baggage when you told me them things that made me feel good, right? Mm-hmm. I wasn't concerned with the baggage when, you know, a long list of all the things that we like about the person. We aren't concerned with the baggage then. We're concerned with the baggage when it's something that we don't like.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I'm a firm believer that you can work with people. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But when it comes down to things that are fundamental, like you said, things that are fundamental to your mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, whatever, health, then you got to kind of bag back.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to, because really it's really about self-preservation in the interim, because you cannot allow yourself to be so damaged in the process and then try to file that under love. One of the other things, Tanya, that I think happens is I see a lot of negative self-view, a whole lot of negative self-view, the way people view themselves. And it goes back to casting that responsibility onto someone else to make you feel great about yourself and to make you be reassured that you are great and you're wonderful. And that becomes taxation. It becomes a burden. One of the things that I do believe in is that you must come confident in who you are prior. See, one of the things that's very sexy about a person is confidence. You know, confidence is I'm not even talking about cockiness. I'm talking about really confident now. Whereas, sure, we have the basic need and desire that I need to know I'm attracted to you and you still find me sexy and all that. I need to know that, I'm still your yum, that's fine. But to the point of being so needy, when you become needy because your insecurities have swollen so, now it becomes a burden to be around you or to be in your company. See, we all like to be complimented, but a lot of people have such a negative self-image. And that, again, comes from the historical context, their historical narrative. It comes from that place where nobody affirmed you. But when you get into relationships with 29, 30-year-olds, 38, 40, it's like, yo, I ain't even got the energy for that. Come on here. I don't have the energy for that. So I think that every person has to be responsible to say, I know something's wrong. But I think also, LaTanya, one of the things that I believe in very strongly is self-analysis. Be true to yourself. You know when you're mean, you know when you're insecure, you know when you're suspicious, you know when you're a hellraiser, you know when you're petty, all of that stuff. And so when someone tells you that, if you're really serious about a relationship, my question is, why not put in the work? If you're really ready, if you're really, really ready for something that you say you want to be solidified, why would you be afraid to put in the work? One of the things I encounter a lot of times are people who want coaching services, and they'll go to the website and they'll look, but they still play around with it, actually committing to be. And I'm sure you get that all the time too. Really, when it comes time to committing to the services, legal services, saying, okay, yo, I want to hear what you got to say, but now it's time to come on and commit.
Yeah, like in relationship, when it come down to paying their money, that's when it come down. That's when it come down over here, right? When it come down to paying their money, when it come down to writing that check, baby, they like, oh yeah, Attorney Moore, I didn't know it was gonna be that much. And here's the thing. Now in a relationship, I'm not talking about financial when I say write that check, right? Right. It's a whole lot more involved in a relationship, if you ask me, than the financial cost. Because when we talk about counting the costs, we're not necessarily talking about finances, right? Anybody can spend money.
Right.
Right. Anybody can spend money. Anybody can just pull out their wallet. Because see, that doesn't require anything, any emotional connection. It doesn't require you to stretch, right? It doesn't require you to really share truly anything that's of yourself, right? So a lot of times people hide behind that, right? And then they can also kind of jockey that and say, well, this why you with me, whatever. Listen, I don't have a problem with people how they do their stuff, right? But for me, like I make it very plain. And ladies, I know y'all probably gonna kill me, but I make it very plain. You ain't gotta do nothing for me. I don't have no straight up, right? Straight up. I'm very clear. And let me tell you, that ain't being cocky, like you said. It's not being cocky. What I want anybody I date to know is that I don't have an expectation that you're gonna do it. I'm very appreciative when you do. But don't be in that place where you feel like you got to do something for me. Because see, now we got an issue with you holding stuff over my head. Because my thing is, if you do it, I better not hear about it. Like, don't be like, well, what about when I did this? Well, hell, what a scoreboard at, right? You keep a score in this piece, you don't won. Goal, touchdown, slam dunk, whatever it is you want it to be. But at the end of the day, you should have did it because you wanted to do it, not because now you trying to get some brownie points. Because if I'm with you, that's all the brownie points that you need. I know everybody don't think like me, But I'm saying that to the end of what you're saying. I think a lot of that stuff also goes right back to baggage, goes right back to your history, goes right back to all of those things where we grew up in places where the people that did things for us, right? What their thing was, well, you know, I took care of you, or
Absolutely.
I, did that. A lot of us grow up under that, and then we don't even realize, as much as we hate that, then we start doing it.
Absolutely.
But like you said, Mario, not intentionally. It's because that's our communication style, right? That's what we do. That's all we know. So when we come up against something that's not like that, we like, okay, something wrong with this person, because you're waiting on a hammer to drop, because you don't believe that it ain't gonna be nothing else to it. So I want you to speak to that though, because that's some whole, somebody once told me that I like to psychoanalyze people, but I don't think that's true. I just like to say, I mean, what I think. But speak to that though. Speak to that particular thing.
Well, I want to combine two things. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
And I want to talk about what Shanette says about you really shouldn't be with a person that you're unequally yoked with, because in order to understand somebody's present situation, you've got to know their past. But see, the whole thing with being equally and unequally yoked is loaded. That's very loaded. It's a lot of meat on that bone, because you can find people that grew up in the same type of environment, same family structure, same types of church, and they still have different types of issues.
And before you get into that, Mario, please, we got to educate. What is a yoke? Please share what a yoke is, because I'll let you go ahead. Okay. Just share what a yoke is so that people understand what a yoke is and how a yoke is used. And then we can move forward from some of this stuff.
Right. In the simplest form, the purest form is it's a piece of machinery that is placed on an ox neck. It restricts him from looking from either side. It holds his head straight ahead, but it also allows someone to control where he goes with the yoke. That's what it is. It is a tool of restriction and control. And so when we say you shouldn't be unequally yoked, according to the scripture, it said with an unbeliever. Now, we can deal with that in a whole lot of ways, because oftentimes we come together because we believe the same way. Two can't even walk together except they be agreed. So I think when we start talking about, are we equally yoked? Okay, you got a degree, I got a degree. You got a job, I got a job. You had a mama, I had a mama. Your mama wasn't married to your daddy, neither was mine. We go to the same church. You Baptist, I'm Baptist. So now we believe the same way, right? But why can't we come together then? Because we have issues and situations and circumstances and that have shaped us differently.
And those are the things that control the yoke, right?
Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about. That's why I wanted you to explain what a yoke was, because also they used it for animals that were working the field, so you could connect multiple oxen. You could connect together. And guess what? The reason one can't look to the left, one can't look to the right, because there's certain things that you're trying to get to. It's the mission, it's the vision, it's the purpose, it's where you're going. Everybody need to just be focused on the vision. You don't need to be worried about what's going on to the right and to the left. But always remember, those variables are those things that control the yoke. So I just wanted to bring that up so we can move into that.
Well, and let's go back and pull those things together that you were talking about, because I think a lot of times that family history, how you grew up, what you heard, shaped you. It really did. Whether that was negative or positive, it shaped you. And whether I use this all the time, LaTanya, my mom, God rest her soul, there was a certain system that we had to wash dishes in, right? You had to have bleach, number one, in the water. That's just a given. You would get killed if she didn't smell bleach in the sink with washing the dishes. The water had to be hot enough that you really couldn't hardly put your hand in it, because she said the dishes were not going to get clean. You had to wash the glasses first. All right. That was just a given. Once you do that, you do the silverware, then you do the plates, and then you do the pots. But you needed fresh water by the time you wash the pots, because that other water wasn't no good and it had got cold. Also, the kitchen was not clean until the floor was swept, counters wiped down, stove wiped down, and the dishes dried and put up. That was the system. Well, guess what? That's my system now. My mom dead in the grave, gone up there with Jesus, probably running his kitchen or whatever she's doing up there. But I still wash the dishes the same way. And I have an issue when I see people who don't. It's got to be that way. You don't go to bed with dishes in the sink. Come on here, you nasty self. See, I hear her. I hear her now. You ain't gonna let no roaches come in my house. I still do that, and I still have almost judgment about someone who does that. Like, you go to sleep with dishes in the sink, nasty. I don't mean no harm, but it's just the way it is. But as we do with relationships, if you have a family that's littered with divorce, broken relationships, that's what you know. Nobody can blame you because none of us chose to be in the families in which we were born in. We didn't have nothing to do with that, because trust me, if we did, I would have told the big guy, hey, God, I need to be over there with the folk with the real bank rolls. All right. I need all the influence, all of that. But we were born into families by no control of our own, and certain things were simply in our bloodline. So what we have to do is to figure out, okay, now that I'm older, I see these things and they're very, very real. I've got to deal with them, because what I'm finding is I can't get in relationships because I'm so messed up. I can't get, it's not them. It is not them. Not saying they don't have their baggage, but what about my own baggage? You know, it was real funny last night. I was at church and I was talking about forgiveness. And I was saying that, you know, and God had given us this word about how a lot of times we're asking God to deal with our enemies. We're really asking God to deal with our enemies. But before he can get to the enemy, he got to deal with us, because we have been less than stellar. We have not done what we're supposed to do. In fact, some of the stuff that we're asking God to deal with our enemies on, we instituted, we cranked it up, we stirred it. And so we have to kind of think about that, is that before I can fix your baggage, I got to fix mine. Because maybe sometimes we're activating the negative baggage that the other person has, because we're acting out the way we grew up seeing, and it hurts. It brings us to that place. So I think that sometimes that's why a lot of people can't get in relationships and move from hay to bay. Sometimes the hay is that warning period where you say, okay, well, let's just see if we can move. But moving from hay to bay ain't easy.
Sure enough, you say that again.
Moving from hay to bay is not easy. I don't care what nobody say. It ain't easy for real. Not if you want to be bay up for some time. Let me put it like that. You know?
You can move from hay to bay real quick if you ain't trying to make none work.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it depends on what type of bay, you know, what type of bay you trying to be.
Right.
But if you're trying to be the best person, I believe you're trying to be the best that you could be, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I want to move to this one too.
Okay.
Unrealistic expectations.
We got to spend the rest of the time on that.
Wait a minute, guys.
Listen, because every time we do a show about relationships, it is always something that is outrageous, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, judging, you know, from everybody else, you know, it's always something that people see that's outrageous. You know, we talked about all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. To say that an expectation is unrealistic is very subjective.
Sure.
It goes back to all the things that you previously talked about, your history, your worldview, how you see yourself, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Comes down and sort of culminates into what your expectations are. Mm-hmm. So we can't deal with all of them tonight.
Right.
And viewers, we want you to go into the comments and put down some unrealistic expectations that you've seen or that you've had yourself. And we definitely will put those out. But Mario, start with some of the unrealistic where you've had to tell somebody your expectations are just unrealistic.
Well, one of the things I start with telling people is that you're not the standard. You are not the standard.
Now, what does that mean?
Well, you know, that's the person who says that everything has to be the way they see it. And if it's not the way they see it, then it is something wrong with them. They ain't been raised right or whatever. They believe that however they see the world, they become the standard. They cannot deviate from that stand. And they hold everybody to that standard. And if they fail, they begin to judge them, they begin to punish them because they have become self-righteous in that standard. There is no variation for them. You know what I mean? And so you can't make a mistake. So I tell people, first of all, know that you are not the standard. I don't care how right the thing has worked for you. That's not the standard for everybody. Everybody wasn't raised the same way. Everybody wasn't trained the same way. For instance, here we go. In our family, the standard is when you come into a room, you speak to everybody. All right? Everybody wasn't raised that way. When you get up in the morning, you say good morning to everybody. Everybody wasn't raised like that. And some people, we were raised in the South to say, yes, ma'am, no, sir. You find somebody, we don't say that. We say, yeah, or what? Okay, the standard for us in the South is we were raised by our parents at that time to say to elderly people, yes, ma'am, no, sir. If you didn't, you were punished for it. It was like, yo, who you think you're talking to? Go back over there and speak to Miss Johnson. Go speak to Miss Bell. And if Miss Bell say, well, Mario came in the room and didn't even speak to nobody. Well, they would already have gotten us. That was a standard. But now we have people that get in relationships that start believing that they are the standard about how things should go. They leave no room for the other individual to have any say-so or any standard of their own. See, I thought for me, when you get ready to talk about coming together, you must master compromise. You must realize that you're not the standard and that everybody's not going to go along with that. And they don't have to. Now we're getting into a controlling situation and a manipulation because you're going to have to manipulate in order to control someone that way. That's going to mean lying, cheating, stealing, robbing. Okay. You're not the standard.
Yeah. And sometimes what you don't understand is, we talked about this before. Are you getting what you want through forced compliance or influence? Mm-hmm. What's the old saying about you can get something with honey versus vinegar? I don't know exactly how it goes.
But you get more flies with honey than vinegar.
Right. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, I think again, it works in relationships. You have to decide, right? You have to decide what's your method going to be. Because if it's something that's valuable and something that you want, first of all, you want to keep it harmonious. You want to keep it happy. But most importantly, you want to keep it working for you.
But let's stop right there. Because I've had people to feel that to develop harmony and to keep it fluid, that means that I've got to diminish who I am. Now that indicates when I hear that is that you have been overlooked in your childhood. Nobody let you have a voice. So now you're fighting always to be heard, or you've been in relationships where you were not allowed to have a voice and you made some sort of vow and decision. I will never be in a relationship again where I cannot be heard. I get that. But then it becomes a fight. It becomes a fight. And that to me is an indication this is not the relationship you need to be in. Because if you don't have a person that can say, I need to hear you. I need to hear you. We're not enemies. So we're not going to come in with a standard. Now, I'm not talking about foolishness. I'm not talking about you can go have 6 or 7 folk on the side. You can go out and chill. I'm not talking about an open relationship. We're not talking about being mistreated. But we're talking about the fact that you believe that the way you see the world is the way anybody that's with you got to see the world.
Right.
Get out of here. You need to date yourself, cuz. All right. Because people see the world differently. People see the world differently. And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means you don't see it that way. One of the greatest exercises I do in coaching is like for right now, the where I'm seated in front of this camera. Behind me, I can see, because the camera's there, my living room. I can see another room over there. But if I would take this and turn this camera around and move around, my vantage point would change. A lot of times we're not ready to get up and change our position and see, wow, I didn't realize it was that way because I ain't never got up. And so I've stayed in the same place and made this the standard. In other words, it don't get no better than this. But now you get with a person who is a thinker, who's a thought leader, who sees life differently. And now you feel intimidated because they're challenging you to come out of that and see things a little bit differently. That's what relationships are all about. Figuring out, okay, maybe I haven't ever seen the dishes washed that way. Or maybe it's okay to just use the dishwasher, ain't got a hand washer. Maybe the dishwasher does get them clean. But if you're unwilling to say, I will decrease so we can meet, then why are you in a relationship?
Right.
Why are you in a relationship? Because you're not ready for that. And every relationship requires that. Let me tell you something. You can go and get a dog. You can go get a pet right now. You can go get some fish. You can go get a parakeet. And there's going to still be an adjustment necessary because both of y'all are trying to coexist under the same roof.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I like what you said, because I think that oftentimes it's a struggle, right? And at the end of the day, it's a power struggle in a sense. You know, I know that I think that when you have one person that may be a little bit more cultured, you know, than the other, right? You know, I think at first it's probably exciting, right? Oh, this person's, you know, doing this and blah, blah, blah. But then after a while, you can start to think, where do I fit into all of this?
Right.
And I think the danger with the where do I fit into all this is that your job is not to fit in. Your job is to enhance, right? Your job is to complement what's already going on, and vice versa. Right. You have to say, well, this ain't what I do, or I've never done this before, but I might be willing to try. Right. Now, like, I'll use myself as an example. And it's just some things, I ain't gonna do. You can jump out a plane. I videotape you from the ground. Right. You can bungee jump. I videotape you from the ground. You can zip line. I videotape you from the ground. You can parasail. I videotape you from the beach. Right. Because that is something, listen, I ain't got no wings. I'm okay without flying and doing all that, right?
Absolutely.
However, that doesn't make me a scary person.
Right.
It's just certain things I'm just not going to do. So I think that we have to, and I'm using that probably as an extreme example, but I think that we also have to respect that person's boundaries when there are just certain things that are just unacceptable. And I think that's part of the problem. Like, sometimes, like you said, maybe we're used to doing things a certain way. It's our standard. We feel like it's us. And sometimes we miss the boat where we don't consider that something is more behavior versus who I am. You know, Mario, you've heard me say this several times. I always say that behavior can be modified, right? Habits can be broken, but character is constant. And I know one of my big things when I'm dealing with people, period, I don't care whether it's in a relationship or outside of a relationship, I'm assessing your character. Because if your character does not line up with my fundamental needs, I'm going to have to just make that bounce, and vice versa, right? I can't necessarily be mad about that, but I have to love myself enough to say, I'm just not going to roll with it if the character is just bad.
And you know what, to me, that's like, I see so many people that, like, if you like to dress and you are, you got a swag and you kind of flashy or whatever, and then you go get a plain Jane. Why would you do that, knowing that you're going to go in and try to recreate them out of who they really are? You know what I mean? And now it becomes a burden because you the fly dude, you know what I'm saying? You like stuff all flashy, but for some reason you are attracted to this person. But once you get them, now you're dissatisfied because you've got to make them over. And when they start resisting that, because you know what they're going to say, LaTonya, you found me like this, folk.
Right. But here's the thing. Are they attracted to the person or the project? Now let's talk about that. Because here's the thing. Some people are attracted to the project.
Right.
Versus the person. They always trying to do this, or they're always trying to do that. That's not a negative, right? That's no shade. Right. But here's the deal. If you're attracted to a project versus a person, what happens when the project is complete?
Absolutely. Let me tell you what's going to happen. I can tell you. They're going to start nitpicking and become petty, and they're going to tear you down so they can build you up again. Because what's behind that behavior is a controlling manipulator. Trust me on that. Trust me on that. Those are kindred spirits. All right. Once they build you up, they're never going to be satisfied. All right. Because once again, they are the standard. They're looking at you instead of accepting you the way that you are. They're looking. I counsel women who are stone social workers. They don't want a man unless he ain't got no job. They don't want, because they see that, but it's a controlling factor in that. It means I got to give him lunch money. I got to pick him up so I know where he is at all times. All right. There's a control factor to that. And we can't, I know people are going to start talking about, oh no, I'll never take care of a man. But guess what? You got some sisters out here that's the only kind they're going to find. All right. Trust me on that. Why you think that we got so many problems with no good folk that people are in relationship with? Because they like that. And what we have done is say, oh, she, I don't know how she learned a bad boy like that. Because she likes the project. There's some men who like the project, but you best believe once they reach the end of the project, they're going to tear it down and say, I must reinvent you again. Because that's what I do. I am that person. Instead of going in and build some houses, go build a building. All right. Go find you some land. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. And I understand that because I meet a lot of people who need to be needed. And so what they do is they look for people who have this need, but they are very sensitive people at the same time. Because when the person starts resisting, and I just said this today, I had a period in my life where I'm talking about God, all right? God had to speak to me and say, that person never asked you to be inserted in that. You're operating out of your need to be needed. And when they reject your help, you're left for dead. Then you want to come to me, to my Lord, look at how they did me. Lord, and dog is
I've been laboring, Lord. I've been laboring for the people, Lord, and they just don't appreciate it.
They don't appreciate the Lord. They just dogging me out, God. And so God had to deal with me and say, but they never asked you to do that. They never even told you that they had a problem with that. You observed what you thought to be the problem, and you gonna go and be a hero and fix it. And then when they told you, no, I don't need that. No, I ain't ask you that. Now I got to have God to repair me. I need some reparative therapy because I'm so wounded. All right. So if you are a social worker, hear me tonight, people. If you got that social worker complex and you're looking for projects to build up so you can look at what I've got done, I promise you right behind there, you are a controller, you are a manipulator, you will lie, you will cheat, and you have an abusive tendency. Trust me on that. That's real talk.
Now that's deep. Now that's almost a drop the mic moment right there. I mean, because you said some things, but I think but in all seriousness though, I think that what does this boil down to as we're talking about going from hay to bay? A lot of this, guys, as you've heard, we're really talking about, let's look at ourselves, right? We're really talking about how we can push things and say, well, it's this person and they're doing this and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, well, then, but what are you doing? Have you looked at yourself? Is this really a good fit for you? Because if you know that you got to control everything, Mario, we've talked about this, and y'all might get me. That's okay. Just go to the Real Perspectives show page and leave your comments there. But here's the thing. You and I talk about this all the time, this whole alpha male, alpha female. And I'm a firm believer, right? Everybody told women this, women that, and alpha women, blah, blah, blah. They do all this type of stuff. But here's the deal. Alpha men love alpha women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. They try to act like they don't. Oh, I just want a woman that's little. No, they don't. You know why? Because the nature of the alpha is to win.
Yeah.
It's to dominate. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, right? It's the nature. The nature is push my chest out because I'm the king of the jungle, right?
Right.
It's like that in women as well. Right? So when you are an alpha, whether it's a man or a woman, and you know this is what you want, you got to ask yourself, are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? Right? Because if you are you ready? Are you ready for that? Because you got to understand that if you're talking about somebody that's an alpha, and you are alpha, right? What does that mean? Because I believe that two alphas really can coexist. And I think that if you put the mix together right, it's an unstoppable, it's just an unstoppable connection. But here's the thing, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because most alphas ain't willing to submit to anything because they got to win on all things. And that's not saying being a dictator, per se, but it's the thrill of the hunt, right? It's the thrill of the chase. It's the, okay, can I do this? Can I win in this situation, right? A lot of alphas tend to be high level risk takers, right? Because they want to do it big, they want to do it grand, they want to do all of these things. And so what I'm saying is, what are some of the things that you would suggest to the alpha personalities out there that, now that we've had this show tonight, realize that you want an alpha man or an alpha woman? So the question is, what are some things that alphas can do that can help them coexist in an alpha relationship?
The first thing is, make sure you are really an alpha and you ain't making up.
Go on, speak.
Yeah, make sure you're real alpha. Don't play alpha. Don't play alpha, ladies or gentlemen. Do not play alpha. It's one thing to pretend to be alpha, but you're just a hell raiser. And I want to make that clear, is that an alpha is not a hell raiser. A real alpha does not have to push his chest out. His authority exudes all over him, all over her. It's not pushy. See, I think that what we have said is people who are neurotic and psychotic are alphas. That's not true. That's just not true. That's just a fool. That's somebody need deliverance. Okay. A real alpha personality, as you said, LaTanya, is one who wins. They require a certain rhythm that wins. They don't turn on another alpha. They know how to connect because it's a kindred spirit, and they get to the winning together. Particularly, they're going to be in a relationship. They know how to mesh. All right. That's how, when I see people say, well, I'm an alpha, but you got an alpha, but you saying, I can't stand her or I can't stand him. You're not really an alpha, because one of the things I found out about every alpha personality is they're brilliant thinkers. They're very brilliant, and they watch the schematics around them. They look at the demographic. They can discern the atmosphere, and they plan how to make this work. So when I be seeing people talk about, I'm an alpha, I be like, yeah, okay, yeah. You're scared. See, you're scared. That's why you're fighting so. See, when you're real alpha, an alpha never operates out of fear. Never. A real alpha strategizes, not scheme, but strategizes, because they find there's a real attraction here, and it's really, really, really deep. So they don't make the person they want to be involved with their enemy. They connect with them to strategize so we both can win, because I want to be with you, because it's the only personality that's going to work for me. Okay, so wait.
So Fred says, how can I get in this video? Fred, you could actually, there should be a link in the description if you want to come in. We got 5 minutes. So if you're coming in, you better come on in now.
Who is Fred?
Fred Toddism.
Okay.
He say, how can I get in this video? Hey, it's real perspectives. We don't know what's going to happen. We just got to, right? We just got to deal with it as it comes. But you got, you literally got 1 minute to get in here, because we got 4 minutes, right? And then we shut it down. So as we're looking at winding down, go ahead, Mario.
No, I was just getting ready to say, I think that a person has to also discern within themselves who they really are prior to you trying to search out your mate. Find out who you are first, and not try to go around and think that you're something that you're not. You need to find out what truthfully you can operate in. What do you really need? And you need to be true for that, because what I found out, one of the worst things that makes relationships complicated is everybody lying about who they are. You have a convoluted vision of yourself, and it's based upon images you see on television, images that you've read about in books, and now you want to become that person, and it ain't working because that's not who you are. Be true to who you are. Maybe you are not a hellraiser. Maybe you are a person who says, listen, let's talk it out. Let's strategize and work it out. But if you get somebody that's trying to dominate out of fear, Get out of here. That's not going to work. But you got to be true to who you are. That's men and women, you know?
Yeah. And you can't be pulled. You can't be pulled out of that. Like people that have known me for a significant amount of time, that really, really know me, they always are just like, man, and yes, like I'm so proud to see like the person that you are. Like I can admit, right? I mean, I have been known to be a hell raiser, right? Back in the day. Yeah. I'll say that. Back in the day, seriously, back in the day, I could say that I was a hell raiser. I was a hell raiser in relationships. I've made a personal choice, and this has been years ago, but I made a personal choice that I ain't trying to live like that. Right? I'm not going to be the one to do it. And I'm not going to be in a relationship where this how we operate. We can disagree, but we're going to disagree with respect. And I'm not trying to be the man in a relationship. I'm not trying to lead the relationship or whatever those terms are that people use. But what I am saying is, like you talked about standards, that's my standard. That's my truth, because I've dealt with having a bad temper. So guess what? I'm not going back there. I'm not spending the second part of my life raising hell with you. You know what I'm saying?
But stop right there for 1 minute. But let me say this. Clearly, you did the self-work, though.
Yes.
Clearly, yes. You did the self-work and recognized that lifestyle did not fit in with who you were evolving and becoming.
Yeah, absolutely.
You took the initiative to really do that self-work and make those decisions and make those lines of demarcation to say, that's not who I am. And I'm going to be honest, because you were honest enough to say, I'll be showing out. I can show out.
Let me tell you something. I had been known. I could cuss. I just want y'all to know that. I could cuss real good.
I believe it.
I could cuss, boy. Let me tell you, I could cuss. I could cuss. But I said, you know what? I ain't trying to do that, right? And that's what I'm saying. People that have known me like over the years and have known me a long time, you know, it's almost like they do a double take. Like, am I talking to the same person? And so that's not to say that cussing is bad. If that's what you do. What I did see, I'll share this, is when I stopped doing all that cussing, my vocabulary increased 4 or 5-fold, right? Because I found other words. I found other words to occupy those sentences. Like, I didn't stop talking less. I just found other words to occupy those sentences. But in the last minute, Mario, that we have left, before we do our parting thoughts, I want to thank everyone that has joined us. Those of you that join us all the time, we want to thank you guys. Mario and I cannot express how just grateful we are that you spend your Tuesday evenings with us. Like we mentioned before, in 2018, we are going to be doing some live shows where you guys can actually be in the room with us. So be on the lookout for those announcements. The event itself, of course, is free, but you do have to sign up. So, of course, we know like who's coming, but we'll give you guys all of that information. We have a YouTube channel that we are populating right now. We're going to encourage you guys, be on the lookout so you can subscribe to that. I want to personally thank everybody and thank you guys for telling us how wonderful the show is. And for those of you that send us your inbox questions and comments and just encouragement, I just wanted to take this time before we closed out this show to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Absolutely. And we're having a great time because these are great conversations. They're real. And I encourage you to always know that we're open. We will talk about anything. All right.
Yeah. Send your topics.
Yeah. Send your topics to us. You can also visit me at my website, mariocbrown.org. You need a life coach? I can help you. I promise you, I can help you.
He sure can. Listen, this free therapy right here. This is my weekly therapy session. After the show, we do a debrief where I get my one-on-one session, coaching session. But yes, thank you guys so much for being a part of the Real Perspectives TV show family. Please, if you haven't, go over to our Facebook page, like the page, leave your comments there. And so until next week, guys, have a great evening.
Good night.